Hey everyone, tonight we're going to the coldest place on Earth. As you pull your blanket up to your chin, picture this. Outside your window, it's minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The air is so cold it could freeze your tears mid-blink. Your breath hangs around like a ghost, and the sky, well, it's pitch black even though it's technically morning. The sun not invited today. Not for a few weeks, actually. You're in Antarctica, in the heart of winter, where even the wind has an attitude. Problem: you probably won't survive this. Seriously, not without help. Out here, the environment doesn't want you, it barely tolerates you. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. Always loved seeing how far and wide this sleepy little adventure travels. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. I wake up with a start, my face pressed against a frozen pillow. There's a sound in the distance, some kind of mechanical hum, and my nose is numb. Not the usual "I've slept funny" numb, but the kind where you start to question if it's still attached. My eyelids feel crusty. I blink. My eyelashes crackle. They're frozen together. Welcome to Antarctica. I'm at a research station called Concordia, tucked deep inland way past the coastline, nearly smack in the middle of this frozen continent. The closest human beings, besides the 12 or so of us here, are about 600 miles away. If that doesn't give you the warm fuzzies, nothing will. It's technically morning, though there's no sun. Hasn't been for weeks. The sky outside the narrow window is black with the faintest tinge of indigo. The stars never left. It's not night, exactly, but it's not day either. The concept of time here feels like an ongoing prank. I checked the thermometer on the wall out of habit. Minus 76 Fahrenheit. That's about minus 60 Celsius, for those who think in science. My breath puffs out and just lingers, swirling in front of me like it has nowhere else to be. I sit up and immediately regret it. My head thumps with that sluggish pressure you get at high altitudes. Concordia sits over 10,000 feet above sea level, and the oxygen is thin. Combine that with months of darkness and bitter cold, and you start hallucinating things like a warm croissant or a talking penguin with sunglasses. I'm wearing thermal long johns, a hoodie, and 2 pairs of socks, yes, even in bed. The idea of stepping onto the linoleum floor without insulation is just ... No, not unless I want to donate a toe to science. I roll out of bed, each movement deliberate. Quick movements aren't smart here. You move too fast, your sweat freezes before you can wipe it off. And frozen sweat, yeah, that's not a souvenir you want. I head toward the tiny mirror by the door, and my reflection is just a hair like a static charged tumbleweed, lips cracked, eyes red-rimmed. I look like I've been through a blender made of wind and ice. I pull back the blackout curtain. No sun. Still, just a velvety dome of stars stretched endlessly across the sky, more vivid than anything I've ever seen. Honestly, it's breathtaking even if each breath hurts. Speaking of which, history lesson time. Did you know the coldest recorded temperature on Earth was right here in Antarctica? Minus 144 degrees Fahrenheit at the East Antarctic Plateau. That's so cold, exposed human skin could freeze solid in under a minute. And yeah, that record was only broken thanks to a NASA satellite in 2013, because no sane person was going to walk out and check that with a handheld thermometer. Anyway, I bundle up in my room's limited heat and gather my courage to start the day. The heating system in the station works but barely. It's like a car heater trying to warm a meat locker during a blizzard. You get little pockets of warmth here and there. Mostly you just learn to be okay with being slightly uncomfortable all the time. There's a crackling sound from the hallway, the pipes doing their morning song, groaning like they've been through some things. Honestly, I relate. I slide on my fleece pants and layer another thermal top over my hoodie, then a third layer. I'm not even halfway done. At this point, I should tell you, people argue over what's worse, Antarctica cold or Siberia cold. There's no firm consensus, and the debate usually ends with someone saying, yeah, but have you felt the wind in Oymyakon? Followed by a story involving vodka and a frozen mustache. Fun times. Out here, the cold is dry. So dry things drop a banana outside and you can hammer a nail with it. Drop your phone and it dies instantly, its battery falling into a state of despair. I once saw a plastic container crack in half from being touched after coming out of a snowbank. The cold doesn't care how fancy your gear is, it just waits for your one mistake. I make my way to the main hall. Each breath feels sharp, like inhaling tiny daggers. The base smells faintly like coffee, rubber, and sadness. There's a kind of institutional funk you only get in places where people haven't seen a tree in 6 months. The others are already up. A few nod as I shuffle past in my awkward Everyone walks like a penguin here. Not for fun, it's just the only way to move when you're triple layered in thermal armor, and terrified of tripping over your own boots. Someone coughs, someone else sneezes. I offer a sleepy morning, and someone replies, "Is it?" Honestly, fair question. And there you have it. That's my morning wake-up in Antarctica. A cold slap of reality, followed by some mild existential dread, and frozen eyelashes. End. Here's your quirky fact of the day. In 1971, a Soviet scientist stationed in Antarctica performed a self-appendectomy. That's right, he operated on himself, with a mirror and local anesthesia, while another guy held the tools. I try to remember that any time I complain about cold oatmeal or frozen toes. Getting dressed in Antarctica is less about style and more about survival. Think less runway fashion, more what would keep a potato warm during a cryogenic freeze. I'm standing in front of my locker, half-dressed, already his bad sweat is the enemy. Out here, if your base layer gets damp, it freezes. And then your body starts playing that fun game called, let's see which toe goes first. Layer 1, moisture wicking. Thermals, soft, clingy, and slightly itchy. They hug every inch of my skin like an overly enthusiastic grandma. Then comes fleeceby, 'cause fleece is your friend. A pullover, thick socks, neck gaiter. I wrestle into it like I'm putting on a clingy bear costume. Layer 3, windproof pants, heavy-duty boots, and a parka that could double as an inflatable raft. It's bright red standard issue and makes me feel like a walking fire hydrant. I don't care, fashion died at the door. The boots are the worst part. They're big, stiff, and about as flexible as frozen ham. I sit on a bench and fight with them like they owe me money. Finally, I win, sort of. My toes are so layered they don't bend. Walking will be stomping. Grace is off the menu. Then come the accessories. Inner gloves, outer gloves, glove liners, 2 hats, 1 thermal, 1 windproof, and goggles. Not sunglasses, goggles. Because at these temperatures, if wind sneaks in, it can slice your cornea like deli meat. You know those NASA suits astronauts wear? We're about 2 sandwiches away from that. In fact, some of our Antarctic cold weather gear has been modeled after NASA tech. Heat retention is everything. It's weird to think that space and Antarctica share fashion tips. Now fully armored, I head toward the outer door. My breath is shallow, I'm already sweating from the effort. I pause by the mirror, barely recognizing the marshmallow-shaped thing staring back at me. I look like a backpack with eyes. This is the moment you reconsider, because once you step out there, it's all on you. There's no emergency Uber, no friendly dog sled team. Just the cold, the wind, and your sheer stubbornness. The door creaks. As I open it, a wave of cold air smacks me in the face, like it has beef with me personally. It snakes into my gloves, kisses my cheek through a gap in my gaiter, and tries to colonize my soul. I instantly regret everything. Fun fact, the coldest temperature ever recorded by a human using physical equipment on the ground was at the Soviet Vostok station in 1983. It hit -128.6 Fahrenheit. That's the kind of cold that makes even your blood consider curling up and quitting. I take one step outside, and my nose hairs freeze. I'm not even exaggerating. It feels like your nostrils are trying to close up shop. Breathing becomes this slow, calculated thing. Inhale too fast, and it feels like your lungs got stabbed with icicles. The wind isn't strong yet, but it's there, whispering, threatening. The kind of wind that waits for your confidence to peak, before it knocks you flat. And here's the dumb part, I forgot to zip my outer parka. Rookie mistake. As I fumble to zip it up, I realize my gloves are too bulky. I can't grip the zipper. I curse, quietly, in 3 layers of muffled fleece, and use my teeth. But it reminds me out here, small mistakes have big consequences. There's an unspoken rule in Antarctica. Double check everything, then check it again, then ask your buddy to check it. You do not want to be the person who forgot to charge their radio or left their thermos lid slightly ajar. That kind of mistake can cost more than pride, it can cost fingers. You'd think I'm exaggerating, but the truth is, Antarctica doesn't care about your intentions. It's not mean, exactly, just indifferent, like nature's version of an emotionally unavailable ex. I shuffle away from the station toward the comms tower, mostly to test my layers and prove I'm not totally soft. Each step crunches. The snow isn't fluffy here. It's compacted, wind-whipped, and angry. It squeaks under my boots like styrofoam and gives off zero forgiveness. I reach the tower, squat down to touch the base, just to say I did it, then turn back. My goggles are already fogging. Sweat is forming at the base of my neck. I feel invincible and incredibly dumb at the same time. On the way back, I glance at a pressure sensor buried in the ice. It's covered in frost, still working silently, like a little scientific elf. I brush the top with my glove, just because. Little acts of interaction mean more when you're surrounded by so much nothing. Historical fact break. Ernest Shackleton, famous Antarctic explorer, once said, "Difficulties are just things to overcome, after all," which is a polite way of saying, you might die, but hey, adventure. It's amazing to think about those early expeditions. No Gore-Tex, no satellite phones, no energy bars, just wool, whiskey, and pure Victorian grit. Half of them didn't make it. The ones who did came back different. You don't face this kind of cold without leaving part of yourself behind. Metaphorically, if you're lucky. That's. As I approach the station again, I spot my own footprints from earlier. They've already started to fill in. The wind doesn't erase, devours, like the landscape is trying to pretend you were never there. Back inside the airlock, Idelia, slowly. If you take your gear off too fast, you then the sweat freezes before your skin dries. That's a fast track to frostnip. I tug off each glove layer like I'm unwrapping a cursed Christmas present. Not my ears are red. My face stings, but I'm alive and weirdly energized. Something about surviving the world's harshest environment before breakfast really puts a spring in your step. Or maybe that's just my circulation returning. I dump my boots on the heater vent, stretch, and let out a deep breath. Then I remember I left my thermos on the comms box. Of course I did. Opening the door again feels like asking for punishment twice. But there's my thermos, sitting all proud and abandoned on the metal housing of the comms box, probably frozen solid by now. That thermos contains coffee, possibly the last decent cup I'll have this week. So naturally, I sigh, zip up, and step back into the abyss. And it is an abyss, white on white, as far as the eye can see. Except you can't really see far. There's a slight haze today, and the low light makes everything blend into one surreal, formless expanse. It's like walking into a blank page that never got around to being written. There's no horizon. The sky and the ground just sort of shake hands and agree not to define themselves. This is what's called a white void. No shadows, no depth, no sense of scale. You could be 5 feet from a building or 5 miles from the nearest rock, and your eyes would lie to you either way. Some people get disoriented out here and just ... walk in circles. Not great if you were hoping to, say, survive. Which is why I follow my own bootprints like they're breadcrumbs in a very hostile fairy tale. One wrong step, and suddenly I'm starring in a solo Arctic remake of Castaway. Except instead of a volleyball, I'll befriend a snowball with googly eyes. When I reach the comms box, I tap the metal with my glove and grab my thermos. It's cold. Not just cold like angry cold. I try to open the lid, but it's frozen shut. The irony is not lost on me. Coffee, that ancient elixir of life, now a solid monument to my forgetfulness. Out here, even your mistakes are preserved in time. Now, about the boots. You'd think snow would make walking easier, like cushioning every step. But in Antarctica, the snow is dry and dense. It's more like powdery concrete than fluffy flakes. If you're lucky, you walk on crusty, compact layers. If you're unlucky, your foot sinks through, and you stumble like a drunk elephant. And guess what? I'm unlucky. My left foot sinks, and I wobble with all the grace of a toddler in ski pants. I flail, regain balance, and curse the snow. Quietly, respectfully, because the snow will always win. Historical fun nugget. Scientists once found a meteorite from Mars buried in Antarctic ice. That's right, this place is such an efficient freezer, it preserves space rocks. The ice acts like a cosmic time capsule. Meanwhile, I can't keep soup warm for 20 minutes. I make it back to the airlock. Again, thermos in hand, pride in tatters. I pass by a colleague, let's call her Zoe, who raises an eyebrow. Went back for the thermos. Don't judge me, I say. My voice is muffled by my gaiter, but the tone of thermos defending shame cuts through. Inside, the coffee has indeed turned into a mocha popsicle. I stick it near the heating vent and stare into the middle distance, which, in this case, is a corkboard covered in faded reminders and weather warnings from 3 years ago. I sip at the melted edges. Still bitter, still mine. There's a low creaking noise as the building adjusts. It happens all the time, wooden beams groaning under temperature shifts, like the station itself is sore and tired. Sometimes it sounds like footsteps, which is a fun thing to remember around midnight, when you're the only one awake and your bunk curtain rustles for no reason. I sit by the window. The glass is frosted at the corners, forming delicate feathery patterns. Some people call them ice ferns. They look like frost trying to learn cursive. I watch them grow slowly, whispering across the surface like they're scribbling messages I can't quite read. You don't realize how loud silence can be until you come here. No cars, no birds, no trees rustling in the wind. Just ... nothing, except for your own breath, and sometimes the low howl of wind like it's singing a sad, slow song only the ice understands. This is the kind of place that makes you feel both completely insignificant and weirdly central, like you've been handpicked to witness something the rest of the world never sees. And speaking of weird facts, Antarctica is the only continent without a time zone. Each station basically picks its own time, usually based on the country that runs it. Here at Concordia, we use Central European time. That's right, while the cold tries to gnaw my face off. My watch cheerfully insists it's 8:30 a.m. in Rome. Time is a suggestion here. There's a soft beep from the weather monitor. Wind speeds are picking up. Still walkable for now, but it reminds me of the unspoken agreement everyone here lives by. Always be prepared to bunker down, because things can change fast. And when they do, you don't want to be out there wondering where the station went. Zoe walks by again, this time layering up. Heading to the ice lab, she says through her scarf. Coming? Nah, I've fought enough snow for one morning, I mumble, still cradling my half-thawed coffee like it's a baby bird. She shrugs. Your loss. I think we're drilling near that pressure ridge. Could be cool. She's right, it could be cool. But so could staying alive. She disappears through the outer door, her figure briefly silhouetted against the void before being swallowed by it. And suddenly, I'm alone again. The isolation hits like a soft punch in the chest. Not painful, but heavy. You learn to carry it. Like extra gear. Academic debate time. There's still argument over how much climate change is influencing Antarctic interior temperatures. While coastal regions show warming trends, deep interior sites like this one show complex and inconsistent data. Some years are colder than expected, others warmer. The ice sheet holds clues, but it's not giving them up. Easily I finish my coffee now, tepid and stretch. My muscles ache in weird ways. Even small movements here burn calories like I'm in a constant state of low-level resistance training. You can eat 4,000 calories a day and still lose weight out here. Silver linings, right? But before lunch, there's one more thing I have to do. Bathroom break. In Antarctica, which as it turns out, is a whole different adventure. But I'll get to that next. Alright, it's time we talk about the most awkward part of surviving in Antarctica. The bathroom situation. Because when you're wrapped in 10 layers of gear and the temperature outside wants to kill you faster than a bad rom-com marathon, taking a bathroom break isn't a casual affair. It's a mission, a logistics puzzle, an ordeal, and it starts with a decision. Inside or outside? See, inside the station, we've got the usual creature comforts flush, toilets, sinks, warmish water. It's not luxury, but it's civilization. But the problem is, we ration water like it's gold. Every flush counts. Showers are once or twice a week, tops, and even then, you've got exactly 120 seconds to achieve cleanliness, nirvana. So for anything more, organic, there's often an incentive to go outside. Yes, that's right, there are designated exterior toilet units, heated boxes of dignity loss. They're technically outhouses, but dressed in winter survival gear, and using them, well, let's just say it's not for the faint of bladder. I zip up again. My layers resist. My body resists. Everything inside me screams, You really have to go. Can you just not? But no. This is a biological imperative, that as I step out into the cold, my face instantly regrets it. My eyelashes start to crisp again. I breathe slowly, deliberately, trying not to inhale too much icy air at once. It feels like my nose is trying to shrink into my skull. The path to the outdoor bathroom is marked with flags on little fiberglass poles each, one spaced close enough that you never lose sight of the next. That's important. In whiteout conditions, these markers might be your only way back. I waddle out across the packed snow, clutching a small bag of necessary tools. You don't just show up to the Antarctic latrine empty-handed, like camping, except the bears are frozen and the mosquitoes have given up. The facility comes into view. It's a small, squat metal structure with a vent pipe and a heavy insulated door, and a sign on the wall, handwritten in permanent marker, "Aim better than Todd did." I don't know who Todd is, but he's legendary in all the wrong ways. I pull the door open with gloved hands, step inside, and the warmth relatively speaking greets me. It's still cold, but at least it's not actively trying to bite my ears off. The toilet seat is made of hard plastic and shaped strategically. And yes, it's heated, slightly, because otherwise, people would stick, literally. Speaking of which, fun, quirky fact, in early expeditions, polar explorers used tin cans and buckets, some just dug trenches, but at these temps, that was risky. There are legends, really, of people getting frostbite on parts of the anatomy no human should ever frostbite. And yes, I double-check the seat before sitting, always. There's a thin, disposable barrier sheet we use, and everyone carries extras. You learn quickly, once, Positioned, I reflect on how weirdly humbling this is. To be thousands of miles from the nearest city, surrounded by nothing but wind and snow, pants around your knees, contemplating the meaning of life in a metal box. Out here, every biological function becomes a logistical decision. It's oddly grounding. You're part of the ecosystem, in a way. A ridiculous, shivering, slightly embarrassed part. The toilet operates on a dry waste vacuum system. Nothing fancy. Everything gets sealed up and packed for eventual removal. That's right, human waste is flown off the continent. Because dumping anything here is a huge environmental no-no. The Antarctic Treaty has rules. Strict ones. Leave nothing behind, except footprints. And maybe some pride. I wrap up, relayer, and exit into the cold again. My face instantly tightens. My breath fogs my goggles. The wind has picked up. A low hum echoes across the flat terrain, like the earth is exhaling. By the way, there's an open debate among researchers about the long-term impact of increased human activity, even from scientists on this pristine environment. Some say we're leaving more than footprints. Even with all our careful waste management and environmental protocols, the very act of being here leaves a trace. Ice cores have recorded traces of industrial pollutants from thousands of miles away. Nothing is untouched anymore. As I trudge back toward the station, I pass a snowdrift that wasn't there an hour ago. The wind carves and shifts the terrain constantly, like an invisible sculptor with a short attention span. It's hypnotic, a gentle reminder that nothing here is permanent, except maybe the smell of the outhouse. Back inside, I peel off my layers, again, slowly, carefully, like diffusing a bomb made of static and sweat. One wrong tug, and your base layer bunches up in all the wrong places, and trying to reach your back when you're shaped like a marshmallow. Not happening. I glance at the clock. It's nearly lunchtime, but time moves strangely here. Every hour feels twice as long and half as real. The constant darkness outside makes it feel like 3 a.m. all the time. You can sleep 12 hours and still feel like a zombie. You can nap for 20 minutes and dream of tacos and beaches. Lunch today will be powdered soup and rehydrated chicken. But I'll take it. After conquering the bathroom gauntlet, anything warm is a victory feast. End. Here's a fun historical side note before we break for food. In the early 1900s, the British explorer Robert Falcon Scott and his team had to use sled dogs for warmth during rest periods, not for transportation, for actual physical warmth. They'd curl up with the dogs to survive the coldest nights. Meanwhile, I just wrestled with my parka zipper and almost cried. Perspective. As I head down the hallway toward the dining module, my stomach growling and my fingers finally warming up, I can't help but laugh a little. There's a special kind of pride in managing the basic. human experience under extreme conditions. It's like getting an achievement badge just for going to the bathroom. And trust me, I earned it. Lunchtime in Antarctica is its own kind of celebration, if you can call dehydrated stew and rubbery eggs a celebration. At this point, after enduring frozen eyelashes, gear wrestling, and that frosty bathroom opera, anything even vaguely edible feels like a Michelin-starred reward. I shuffle into the galley, what we call the dining area, and the smell of warmth hits me. Not good food exactly, but warmth. A combination of hot broth, burnt toast, and whatever someone tried to microwave and forgot about. Probably broccoli. Galley is a narrow room with bolted-down furniture and a mess of magnet-clipped notes on every vertical surface. Stuff like "Don't microwave tuna again" and "Check the freezer seals" or "Lose dessert privileges." High-stakes stuff. But it's also one of the only places in the station where people gather and talk like normal humans, and not like cold-stunned zombies. I grab a plastic tray and slide it along the counter. Today's lunch: beef stew, instant mashed potatoes, canned peaches, and a hot drink that may or may not be coffee. The stew smells like salt and sadness, but it's hot, and that's the real currency here. I plop down next to Marco, one of the glaciologists on base. He's already halfway through his meal, his parka still dusted with ice. "You heading out? 4 core samples today?" I ask, blowing on my spoonful like I'm afraid it might bite back. He nods. "Yeah, weather's holding. Gotta hit that site before the ridge moves again." Now, that might sound like small talk, but it's not. In Antarctica, moving ice isn't just a poetic phrase, it's a problem. Massive pressure ridges can shift and create cracks, crevasses, or even swallow up equipment if you're not paying attention. The ice moves, slowly but steadily, like it has plans. We chat as we eat, trading stories about who nearly lost a glove last week and how the solar panels are acting up again. Someone jokes about staging a mutiny over the instant potatoes. Everyone laughs a little too hard. When you're stuck with the same dozen people for months, food humor becomes top-tier entertainment. Now, time for your historical fact fix. Scientists began drilling ice core here in the mid-20th century to study ancient climate records. These cylindrical sections of compressed snow and ice date back hundreds of thousands of years, some even reaching 800,000. You can actually see layers in them, like tree rings, each one recording snowfall, volcanic ash, or atmospheric gases. Trapped inside, Marco's job involves extracting these cores from specific sites mapped by satellite. Once they're drilled, they're packed like precious cargo and flown out on the next supply drop for analysis. What's wild is that these tubes of frozen history are key to understanding Earth's future. They tell us how the planet breathed, sneezed, and panicked long before we showed up. "Ice doesn't lie," Marco says, stabbing at a cube of rehydrated beef. "Neither do the mashed potatoes," I reply. "They say we've given up." Halfway through lunch, the galley's radio crackles to life with a report about minor wind upticks and a warning to secure outdoor instruments. Nothing urgent, but enough to trigger a few grumbles. Most of us were hoping for a calm afternoon, as I sip my drink, which turns out to be lukewarm. Cocoa dust in water eye here, chairs scraping and boots stomping. A couple of team members are heading out to assist Marco, all of them dressed like they're about to walk into a snowbound boss battle. They're checking gear, strapping on snowshoes, clipping radios to parka loops. I debate tagging along. On one hand, it's freezing. On the other hand, I could use some excitement. I've already stared at the corkboard of Eternal Notes too many times. Also, Marco promised he'd show me the spot where he thinks he found an ice pocket that might date back 1,000,000 years. No big deal, just potential scientific history buried 10 meters under our boots. Curiosity wins. I scrape my tray, dump it into the wash bin, and suit up. Again, the second gear up of the day is worse than the first. My body groans, my gloves protest. One of my bootliners is still damp. I contemplate a silent scream. Outside, it's still bright dark, that weird Antarctic twilight that never ends. The wind hasn't picked up much yet, but there's a rumble in the air like it's deciding whether or not to be a problem. We load the snowmobile with the drilling rig and samples. I hop on the back seat, clutching the cargo straps like they're holy relics. The ride out is bumpy and loud. The wind tears at us from every angle. and even though I'm bundled like a survival burrito, I still flinch when gusts slip down my collar. The terrain is shockingly uneven. What looks flat from a distance turns out to be a series of buried ridges and soft patches. After 10 minutes, we reach the drill site, a small flagged area with 2 metal poles and a tripod mounted over a hole in the ice. Marco gets to work. The drill's hum is low and gritty, and I help by logging the depths and pressure readings on a clipboard that threatens to take flight in the breeze. I watch as Marco extracts a section of ice core. It's roughly 3 feet long, pale blue, and surprisingly heavy. He turns it in the light, and I can see faint bubbles trapped inside. These, he says, holding it up, these are ancient farts, from 500,000 years ago. Beautiful, I reply, solemnly. We shall learn from the farts of the past. He laughs, and I catch a rare glimpse of joy that only happens when cold, stress, and science mix perfectly. Suddenly, we hear a deep groan from beneath us. It's low and distant, like the earth cracking its knuckles. Everyone freezes. It's probably nothing. Ice does that, it shifts and settles like a living thing. But still, we all look at each other, eyes wide. Nobody says it, but we're all thinking, was that close? We wrap up the session quickly after that, core sealed, notes tucked, gear packed. The wind's getting sassier now, lifting ice crystals into the air and giving the world that glittery, apocalyptic look. Back on the snowmobile, I glance behind us as we drive away. The drill hole already looks smaller, like the land is healing itself, or maybe trying to erase evidence that we were ever there by the time we return to the station. My face is numb, my fingers are stiff, and my stomach is already plotting its next snack. But I'm grinning like an idiot, because despite the cold, the wind, and the million layers of discomfort, this is an adventure, and not the kind with dragons or laser swords, the kind with old ice and fart bubbles and teamwork. Honestly, that might be even better. Back inside the station, I'm still vibrating from the cold, not just shivering, vibrating. My muscles twitch like they're trying to launch me into orbit, possibly toward somewhere tropical. I peel off the outermost layers again and hang them near the vent, which smells faintly of toasted socks. That's the closest thing to incense we've got. But just as I'm sinking into a chair with thoughts of a warm drink and a YouTube rabbit hole, I can't access because there's no Wi-Fi strong enough to stream a cat video. It happens. The wind arrives. Now, it's not like normal wind. It's not the rustling leaves kind, or the chilly autumn breeze kind. This is katabatic wind, and it's angry. You know how people describe the roar of a freight train during a tornado? That's the best comparison I've got. A low, continuous growl builds against the walls, the kind that makes your bones subtly vibrate if you sit still enough. The entire station creaks, not in a cute, cozy cabin way, but in a please don't collapse, I have more snacks to eat kind of way. Katabatic winds are gravity-driven, by the way. They form when cold, dense air high up in the interior begins to sink, and when that air picks up speed downhill, it becomes something between an avalanche and a turbofan. These winds have been recorded at over 200 miles per hour in parts of Antarctica, fast enough to flip a snow tractor like a Tonka toy. Today's isn't that strong yet, but it's enough to change plans. Nobody's going back outside unless it's life order or coffee related, which sometimes feels like the same thing. I shuffle into the rec room where a few others are holed up. Zoe's there, reading a paperback novel with duct tape down the spine. Marco's fiddling with a portable solar cell, muttering that it's absolutely not built for spiteful weather. One of the engineers is silently playing chess against himself. He's losing. Someone flips on the emergency wind monitor display. Red blinking dots, gust peaks, average force. We all lean forward like it's the weather version of a suspense thriller. One gust clocks in at 84 miles per hour. Woo, I say, mildly impressed. She's in a mood. Hope you didn't leave anything outside, Zoe replies without looking up. I left my sense of optimism out there. It's probably airborne by now. We all laugh, the kind of laugh that sounds louder because it's pushing against the hum of the wind. Now, with movement restricted and outdoor work cancelled, we're stuck with indoor duties. Some people do data logging, others organize samples, catalog equipment, or if you're me, wander the station trying not to snack again. And, while the wind rages, there's this subtle paranoia that builds. You start triple-checking the hatches, listening for weird clanks, or just imagining disaster scenarios for no reason. Maybe it's the isolation, Or maybe it's the wind literally drilling through your nerves. Fun fact, during the 1950s, a Soviet research station reported record katabatic wind speeds that caused structural damage and made going outside impossible for over a week. The crew ended up rationing supplies and nearly ran out of heating fuel. One guy reportedly named a floorboard and talked to it daily. Not even mad, just ... adapted. I leaned back on a bench and closed my eyes for a second, trying to tune in to the rhythm of the station. A mix of humming electronics, the occasional cough, a distant kettle boiling, and of course, the banshee scream of the wind battering the outer hull. It's not white noise, it's more like chaos ambience. Outside the ice is dancing, not visibly, but I know it is. Blown snow twists into phantom funnels that vanish as fast as they appear. Instruments tied down with steel cables sway like stubborn kites. Anything left unsecured is now somewhere else, probably in orbit. Then someone says it, goggles are missing. That might not sound like a big deal, but it is. A pair of thermal field goggles was left outside earlier on a tripod hook, and now it's gone. That means one of two things. They're lodged in a snowbank, or they're halfway to the Ross ice shelf. The engineer sighs. Those were the good ones. I chime in. Guess we'll be doing the lost and frostbitten routine later. Everyone groans, but it's affectionate. It's a running joke. Misplacing things here is like misplacing socks in a washing machine, only more dangerous and way colder. We've lost hats, flags, tools, even a collapsible chair once, no one's sure how. One day it was there, the next poof, vanished like a magician's assistant in a snowstorm, after an hour of sitting, hydrating, and pretending to work on an unfinished spreadsheet from 3 weeks ago. The wind starts hitting a new pitch, higher, shriller. It's like the air has figured out how to scream. Okay, Zoe says, setting her book down. Now it's mad. I walk over to the window slit in the outer hall. The view is almost completely gone. A swirling mist of snow is battering, the exterior like static on fast forward. Even the red flags lining the walkways are bent sideways. It's beautiful in a terrifying slow apocalypse kind of way. I check my radio out of habit. Emergency channels still quiet. That's good. No one's gone full into the wild today. Not yet. Now time for your quirky fact. Antarctica has fire. Drills yup, because despite the snow and ice, one of the greatest dangers inside the station is actually fire. The air here is incredibly dry, and with all the electrical equipment and synthetic materials, one spark could ruin everything, and fighting a fire in -80, not ideal. So we do drills. We even have fire blankets on standby next to the snow. Shovels. But today's drill is just trying to stay sane indoors. I head into the lab area and decide to check on a few of the ice core samples. We store them in temperature-controlled freezers, even colder than outside, but stable. It's like storing wine. If the wine was ancient snow, and the cork could kill you. One of the samples is labeled Deep Dome C, -3.291 meters. I hold it gently, like it's a museum relic, because it kind of is. This particular chunk might hold atmospheric dust from the last interglacial period, or so the research team hopes. I stare at the swirling bubbles inside, tiny spheres of ancient air, actual time capsules. It's like holding a breath from a world that didn't know humans existed yet. Academic debate break. There's still disagreement over the precise dating of deep Antarctic cores, especially when multiple climatic events stack in the same section. Some scientists argue that ice distortion due to pressure makes accurate readings past 700,000 years unreliable. Others say new isotopic scanning tech is fixing that. Either way, we're arguing over air bubbles older than human civilization. Back in the main corridor, I pass by the heat event, where my gloves are now half dry and vaguely crispy. The station creaks again. Everyone goes quiet for a second, just long enough for the wind to sneak into the moment. And then, without anyone saying it, we all understand. Nobody's going outside today. And honestly, that's fine. Some days, the smartest move in the coldest place on Earth, is just staying put. Stepping back out into the void, the cold wraps around me again like a too-eager ghost hugger, clingy, and not at all comforting. The wind has eased, but it still pushes at my legs as I walk. Swirling snow across the ground in little spirals that dance and vanish as quickly as they appear. The storm may have taken a breather, but it hasn't surrendered. I take the long way back to the station, not because it's smarter, but because I'm curious. The kind of curious that ends with numb fingers and regrets. But hey, that's 80% of life in Antarctica. I wander out past the storage crates and the now half-buried solar array, crunching over ice so compacted it sounds like styrofoam underfoot. There's no sound except the snow shifting beneath me and my own breath, which echoes in the sealed-off helmet of my parka hood. And then, from the edge of a nearby drift, I hear it, a sharp honking squawk. I freeze, blink, slowly turn toward the noise like I'm expecting to see a lost trumpet. Instead, I see a penguin. Not just any penguin either. Alone, Adelie, standing maybe 15 feet away, halfway between majestic and utterly ridiculous. It's like someone dropped a little tuxedo-wearing gremlin out of the sky and told it to sass the snow. The Adelie penguin cocks its head at me. I cock mine back. We have a moment. Then it honks again, louder this time, like it's giving me notes on my posture. Now Adelies don't usually wander inland this far from the coast without a reason. Either this one got lost, or it's staging an impromptu protest. The protest of one very annoyed bird against all of existence. I slowly crouch, trying to seem less threatening, which is difficult when you look like an overstuffed tomato in layers of red winter gear. The penguin shuffles a few steps closer, then pauses, stares, honks once more, then poops a direct hit on a snow boot. Charming, I whisper. Truly, a diplomat. I don't move. I'm not about to scare it. Besides, I'm fascinated. It just walks around like it owns the continent, which, let's be honest, it sort of does. Penguins are among the only full-time residents of this place. Most humans are just tourists in Parker's historical moment here. In 1840, the French explorer Jules Dumont d'Urville led one of the earliest Antarctic expeditions and described penguins as awkward and impassive, which is accurate, if not wildly judgmental. They've been here far longer than we have, thriving in conditions that would make most mammals tap out after 15 minutes. The penguin and I sit in silence for a bit, me, chilled but still, and him, occasionally poking at a chunk of wind ice like it owes him money. Eventually, he turns, gives one last derisive honk, and toddles off into the white with a wiggle that should absolutely be illegal in a place this serious. As he disappears over a snowy rise, I realize I've lost track of direction, just for a second, but in Antarctica, that's all it takes. Everything here looks the same. Left, right, behind. Ahead the landscape is a perfect symmetry of white and light and shadowless texture. No trees, no landmarks, not even a rock to say, hey, you've been here before. Just a cold, blank canvas. For a heartbeat, I panic. Not full-blown panic. More like a creeping unease, like I've misplaced my phone, but the stakes are my life. I spin slowly, scanning for anything recognizable, and finally, faintly, I see the top edge of the station roofline breaking the curve of the snow horizon. Maybe 200 feet away, I exhale a breath I didn't realize I was holding. It instantly fogs my goggles. One step, then another. I walk carefully, rhythmically. Don't get cocky, don't rush. People get frostbite sprinting back to warmth. I've heard stories of scientists so focused on getting indoors, they didn't notice a glove slipping off until their fingertips turned the color of bad grapes. Speaking of frostbite, open academic debate alert. There's still disagreement about how exactly Antarctic creatures like fish and invertebrates survive in sub-zero waters. Some produce antifreeze proteins that bind to ice crystals and stop them from growing, but the specifics vary between species. Scientists are still mapping the biochemical tricks these animals use. Basically, nature's pulling some serious cold magic, and we're still trying to read the recipe. As I walk, the silence creeps in again. This isn't like any quiet you've ever heard. It's not the quiet of a library or a late night. It's total, absolute. No leaves rustling, no birdsong, no distant traffic, just your own breathing and the crunch of your boots. You start hearing things that aren't there, phantom sounds. A whisper of movement, a laugh that didn't happen. Some people call it ice whisper. Your brain, deprived of sound, starts inventing noise just to fill the void. I reach the station door and pull it open with a grunt. Inside, I peel off my gloves with effort. My fingers sting, not frostbitten, but flirted with. I rub them gently, shaking out the tension. Back in the main hall, I pass a couple of my teammates. Zoe nods as I walk by. Heard you had a date with a penguin. Messy breakup, I reply, lifting my boot. He left me a gift. She laughs. At least it wasn't a leopard seal. Oh right, quirky fact of the day. Leopard seals are one of Antarctica's top predators. Sleek, fast, and terrifyingly smart. They've been known to stalk scientists at the ice edge and even play with their food. One famously tried to feed a National Geographic photographer by repeatedly dropping dead penguins at his feet during a dive, as if saying, "Eat something, you look thin." I head to the mudroom to clean off my boot. The penguin gift has frozen solid, of course it has on. I end up scraping it with a spatula someone labeled poop tool number 3. No one wants to know what happened to poop tools number 1 and hashtag 2. Later. I jot a note in my daily log, encountered lone. Adele made eye contact, lost an argument, will seek revenge in future lifetime. Then I lean back in my chair and stare at the window again. The wind is quieter now. The horizon, still blank. But somewhere out there, that penguin is waddling off into the silence like it owns the place. And honestly, I think it does. Some things in life are simple. Taking a deep breath, stretching after a nap, laughing at a perfectly dumb joke. And then there's going to the bathroom in Antarctica. Yes, we already talked about the great outdoor toilet adventure earlier, but now I have to address something far more intense. Something you might not think about until it's too late. Something that every Antarctican must eventually face. The pee dilemma. Let me paint the picture for you. You're out in the field. You're wrapped in 5 to 7 layers of gear. You've got your outer shell, mid layers, base layers, thermal underwear, glove liners, mittens, hoods, and boots that are so stiff they could double as space armor. You've got your radio, your notebook, your sample kit, and maybe, just maybe, your pride still intact. And then, nature calls. Not politely, not in a hey, when you get a second kind of way. No, this is urgent. Bladder boiling, urgent. A full siren, do it now situation. And suddenly you're staring at the frozen horizon and weighing your options like a philosopher under duress. Do I try to make it back to the station? Do I attempt the full gear removal sequence in the cold? Do I try to use the portable field urinal device that I forgot how to use last season? Or do I simply cry and hope the tears don't freeze before they hit my boots? Well, today was that day for me. I was helping Zoe and Marco adjust the snow depth monitors out past the wind fence. It wasn't even a long job, just recalibrating the instruments and clearing ice buildup, but the cold hit harder than expected. And as you might have guessed, I'd made the classic error of hydrating too enthusiastically at lunch. So there I am, staring at an icy meter stick, wind gently threatening to slap me sideways, trying not to think about waterfalls or garden hoses or anything remotely liquid. Be right back, I mutter, waddling off behind a snow tractor like I'm on a suspiciously timed mission. Now, out in the field, the pee process is a refined, practiced maneuver. You don't just go, you execute a series of highly coordinated steps, most of which are designed to prevent hypothermia in places you really don't want it. First, you find shelter from the wind, a drift, a crate, a very understanding snowmobile. Second, you remove your outer layers just enough to expose what needs to be exposed. No more, because every second of skin contact with this air is a negotiation with pain. Third, you deploy your pee bottle or pee funnel, depending on anatomy and confidence level. And here's where things get spicy. The bottle I have is made of high-density plastic, designed not to crack under extreme cold, but it's still brutally cold on contact. I wince, I hurry, I concentrate like I'm defusing a bomb. I whisper affirmations to myself. You got this, you are strong. You have not come this far to freeze your butt. And then I hear it, a crack. No, not from me, from the bottle. The cap, the screw and lid has developed a small hairline fracture, probably from repeated use, and now, in this critical moment, it's compromised. I finish quickly, cap it carefully, and double bag it for safety. Yes, we bag our pee. Everything gets hauled back to station for proper waste handling. No yellow snow left behind. As I zip back up, cold fingers fumbling like I've never handled a zipper in my life. I look up and see Zoe watching me from a polite distance. Everything okay? She calls out. Yeah, I shout back, just bonding with my own mortality. She laughs, not unkindly, because we've all been there. This, my friends, is a rite of passage out here. Forget climbing a glacier or surviving a blizzard. If you've managed a successful outdoor pee in -50 without freezing a body part or dropping your bottle, you're officially an Antarctic veteran. Now for the quirky fact you didn't ask for but can't unlearn. Penguins, specifically emperor penguins, can't pee standing up like mammals. They excrete uric acid as a paste to conserve water, which is one reason you'll often see them squatting or waddling awkwardly with what scientists call uric posture. It's adorable. And also a little gross. I make my way back to the team, bottle secured, dignity mostly intact. Zoe offers me a protein bar without comment, which in Antarctica is the equivalent of a warm hug. Storm's picking up again, Marco says, glancing at the horizon. I look out and see a faint shimmer of blowing snow, like glitter being thrown by an angry child. We wrap up our readings and begin the trudge back. The wind's not howling yet, but it's definitely muttering threats. Back at the station, I sanitize everything like I'm prepping for surgery, then dump the bag into the waste locker. It'll eventually be loaded into the waste sled and hauled to the storage unit for processing, because here, everything gets tracked, labeled, accounted for, yes, even your bodily functions. Historical pause. During the early Amundsen-Scott expeditions, they had to use open-pit latrines that eventually froze over into terrifying, crunchy, multi-layered monuments to exploration. There are stories, probably exaggerated, of someone losing a boot down one and choosing to leave it rather than recover it. Too dangerous, they said. Honestly, respect. I settle into the galley with a hot drink and a new appreciation for plumbing. Zoe is sketching something in her field notebook, possibly the snow depth, possibly an anatomically accurate penguin, pooping on my boot. You think we'll ever figure out how to make peeing out here easier? I ask. She shrugs. If we do, I'm naming it after you. Wow. I say the Kayat Shine Deluxe outdoor bladder system has a nice ring to it, guaranteed to only slightly ruin your day, she adds, grinning. And so, another Antarctic adventure ends not with glory or discovery, but with a frozen pee bottle, windburned knuckles, and just a touch more humility. This place doesn't let you forget how human you are, and honestly, that's kind of beautiful. If you ever want to understand the full range of human tolerance, sit down to lunch in Antarctica and listen to a paleontologist describe prehistoric bugs while you eat. That's what happened to me today. I was minding my own business, trying to enjoy my semi-rehydrated beef stew well. Beef stew in the same way that cartoon air is food, when Chris, our station's resident paleontologist, sits across from me with a tray of powdered mashed potatoes and a grin like he knows something I don't. Spoiler alert, he did. Ever wonder what kind of creatures lived in Antarctica 300 million years ago? He says. I shrugged, mid-bite. Dinosaurs, he laughs. Sure, but way before them. This place used to be a swamp. Giant bugs, ferns as tall as houses, dragonflies the size of ravens. The real horror show was underfoot. And then while I'm chewing something that tastes suspiciously like packing foam, he starts describing meganurids, ancient insects with wingspans over 2 feet wide. Basically, prehistoric mosquito terrors. Imagine one of those buzzing around your tent, he says. I'm trying not to, I reply, stabbing my fork into the stew just to feel in control of something. Chris is one of those scientists who's absurdly passionate about their field in a way that's both charming and slightly unhinged. He's currently researching fossilized plant imprints found in the Transantarctic Mountains, which are so far from here they might as well be in Narnia. But he still brought a folder full of photos to show us during lunch, like baby pictures of ferns. These are from the Permian period, he says, flipping through laminated sheets, back when Antarctica was warm and wet, and somewhere between prehistoric rainforest and giant bug rave. I nod politely. Meanwhile, Zoe has stopped eating and is leaning over my shoulder, staring at one of the fossil prints. Wait, is that a foot? Chris beams. That, my friend, is a trilobite trail. She squints. It looks like a squished waffle. I take offense on behalf of all trilobites. I decide not to tell them that I've accidentally dripped mashed potatoes on the edge of one of the pages. It now contains 299 million years of plant life and instant carb dust. Here's your historical fix for the day. Antarctica wasn't always the frozen wasteland we know today. During the Mesozoic era, it was lush, green, and situated much closer to the equator. Over hundreds of millions of years, plate tectonics dragged the continent south, and climate shifts eventually entombed it in ice. But the fossils remain frozen whispers of swamps and seasons and strange alien life. And Chris, he lives for it. He says digging through Antarctic rock is like time traveling with a chisel. Someday, he says between bites, we'll find something so weird it'll rewrite everything. I raise an eyebrow. Weirder than 2-foot flying insects. He leans in, whispering dramatically. What if we find soft tissue? Zoe chokes on her drink. I blink. That's impossible, right? I ask. He shrugs. Mostly, but extreme cold can preserve things, ... surprisingly well. And just like that, the lunchroom has become a speculative sci-fi think tank. Someone across the table mutters, Jurassic Ice, and someone else adds, please no cloning projects. Still, Chris's excitement is infectious. I finish my stew, which at this point has congealed into something between soup and despair, and start flipping through the fossil prints again. Fern fronds, root systems, the occasional insect wing embedded in shale. It's like nature's version of a mixtape from a time when the planet still had dial-up. Wait, Zoe says, you said Antarctica was a swamp. How did bugs even survive the winters? Chris chuckles. There were no real winters back then. It was tropical, no polar ice caps. The Earth's climate was a hot mess, literally. That's deeply unfair, I mutter. We could be out here sunbathing right now. Well, he says, grinning, if you wait 100 million years, climate change might get us there again. Awkward silence. Then someone says, too soon. Still, he's not wrong. The Earth has been through dramatic climate shifts before. The difference is, back then, it took tens of thousands of years. Now we're speeding through change like we've got somewhere to be. Open academic debate. There's currently a hot discussion among paleoclimatologists about the role of atmospheric oxygen during prehistoric eras and how it contributed to the massive size of insects like megan. One theory argues that higher oxygen levels allowed bugs to grow to enormous sizes. Another school of thought says it's more complex temperature, predator pressure, and evolutionary bottlenecks all played a role. So far, no consensus, just a lot of arguments, and probably one heated bug-themed group chat, as lunch winds down. I ask Chris if he misses field digs. Every day, he says, but this job, collecting ice data, running climate models, it's the same mystery, just colder. He offers me one last fact as we rinse our trays. There's a mountain range buried under Antarctica's ice sheet that rivals the Alps in size, the Gambritsov Mountains discovered via radar. Completely hidden, entirely real. Nobody's seen them in person. They're just ... there, frozen in darkness, waiting. I stare at him. That's haunting. He grins. Isn't it great? After lunch, we drift back into our separate tasks. Zoe returns to the snow sensor logs, Chris to his fossil files. I head into the common room, where the heater is humming like a tired cat, and the couch sags in the middle like it's seen some things. I flop down with a notebook and try to process what I've learned today. Giant bugs, hidden mountain ranges, tropical Antarctica, logistics. This place is full of contradictions. It's dead, yet full of ancient life. It's silent, yet echoes with the hum of science. It's frozen, yet constantly shifting underfoot. Out the window, the snow is falling sideways. Again, somewhere beneath it, deep below the ice, trilobite trails sleep on, undisturbed, and in the galley, someone microwaves fish. God help us all. The hardest part of life here isn't the cold. It's the decisions. And today, I'm stuck with one. Join the exterior drone mission, or don't. My curiosity's doing jumping jacks. My fingers are yelling, are you kidding me? It's that classic conflict between oh yeah adventure, and I would like to keep all my digits. Thank you. Let me back up a bit. Earlier in the afternoon, a team gathered near the gear module, bundling up and prepping the station's drone for an aerial scan of the nearby ice shelf. It's a routine mission check for stress fractures, monitor snow, drift patterns, maybe spot some wandering seals if we're lucky. But today's wind is tricky. Not terrible, not calm. That in-between zone where gusts surprise you and goggles fog for no reason except spite. Technically still safe, but safe in Antarctica is like mildly venomous. In Australia it's a spectrum. I'm sitting in the hallway, fully layered, except for my boots, just watching the activity through the frosted window. Zoe walks by, already suited up, goggles dangling from her neck. You coming? I hesitate, still negotiating with my extremities. She chuckles. 10 Trek Max, we launch and come back, you'll be fine. That's what they always say before things get dramatic. Still, something in me stirs. Maybe it's boredom. Maybe it's the idea of being in the middle of that vast white nothingness again, watching a tiny drone soar where humans can't. Or maybe it's just ego. Nobody wants to be the one person who didn't go. I nod. Give me 5. Fast forward. I'm outside, boots on, gloved goggles, strapped, instantly regretting every life choice that led me to this moment. The cold hits hard again, like it's mad I left. My fingers go from toasty to trembling in 30 seconds. Every step is a negotiation between traction and awkward penguin waddle. We march in single file toward the launch site, which is really just a flat patch of wind-cleared snow behind the comms array. The drone itself is already warming in a case, heated by battery packs, one of those precious luxuries we don't talk about enough. Because out here, batteries don't just die, they give up. Fun fact, lithium-ion batteries lose capacity insanely fast in sub-zero temps. At -40 degrees Fahrenheit, your average phone battery lasts about 4 minutes. So every drone flight is a timed race between science and entropy. The team forms a windbreak with their bodies, while Jay, our drone tech, finishes calibrating. He looks like a snowboarder who got lost on the moon. Oversized jacket, thermal mask, the whole deal. He lifts the drone gently, gives it a nudge skyward, and with a mechanical buzz, it lifts into the frozen air. We all crane our necks. The drone rises, adjusts, and hums forward with confident, GPS-guided resolve. Its camera swivels, scanning the white landscape in quiet arcs. There she goes, Jay mutters. 75% battery, wind assist on outbound. We'll lose a few minutes on return. We nod like we understood all of that. Zoe hands me a small tablet with the drone's live feed. What I see is ... unsettling. Gorgeous, but unsettling. The landscape from above looks infinite. No tracks, no edges, no visible features at all. Just ripple after ripple of wind-scoured snow, like a crumpled white bedsheet, stretching to the ends of the earth. It's beautiful in the way silence is beautiful, but also how voids are beautiful. You start to understand how explorers went mad, staring at this for too long. Then, on the edge of the feed-movement, Zoe leans in. See that shadow? I do. A faint, slow motion along a pressure ridge, probably snow sloughing off from the wind. But just for a second, my brain whispers, something else, something alive, something watching. Of course, it's nothing, right? Here's your historical snack. During Operation Headjump, in 1946-47, the US Navy sent a massive fleet to Antarctica, officially for training and research. Unofficially, it spawned decades of conspiracy theories, secret bases, alien structures, even Nazi hideouts under the ice. None of it confirmed, obviously. But if you spend enough time out here, you almost start to believe in hidden things beneath the snow. Almost. I hand the tablet back and check my gloves. My fingers are losing feeling. Even with liners, it's the kind of slow, creeping numbness that doesn't hurt, it tricks you, makes you think you're fine until it's too late. 5 minutes left, Jay announces signals good. I take a moment to just ... breathe, carefully, slowly. The air is dry and razor sharp. It scrapes down my throat and nestles in my lungs like tiny glass slivers. I can't feel the inside of my nose. I'm blinking just enough to keep my eyes from freezing shut. The silence out here, except for the drone's fading hum, is full and absolute. And yet, it's not lonely. There's something deeply grounding about standing on ice older than civilization, under a sky that never fully darkens or lights. You feel insignificant and enormous at the same time, like you're both a speck and the only thing that matters. Then the wind picks up, not a lot, but enough. A gust slams into us, and I stagger slightly. The drone veers. Jay curses softly and taps at his controller. We're good, he says, stabilizing. The wind howls again. Zoe puts a gloved hand on my shoulder to steady herself. Fun, huh? She says, her voice muffled. I grin. Remind me of this next time I say I'm bored. We retrieve the drone just before the battery dips into red. It lands ungracefully, skidding slightly across the snow like it's had enough of our nonsense. Jay scoops it up and nods to the group. Back before my nose falls off. We laugh, but it's half serious. The walk back feels longer. My legs are heavy, like every step is asking permission from my knees. My fingertips ache in waves. Warmth is a memory. The promise of soup and a slightly burned grilled cheese is the only thing keeping me moving. Back at the station, I strip off gear in the airlock and flex my fingers. They hurt now. A good sign. Hurting means they're warming up. Not hurting would be bad. Later, after warming by the vent and sipping broth, Zoe passes by my bunk and taps the frame. "Glad you came," she says. "Me too," I reply, and I mean it. Because despite the pain, despite the numbness and the 1,000 micro-calculations for survival, the view from up there of endless white, of shadows moving across untouched snow, was worth it, even if my fingers disagree. I don't know what time it is, and not in the I forgot to check my watch way. I mean, I genuinely, deeply, cosmically do not know what time it is anymore. My internal clock, broken, my circadian rhythm, has left the building, probably somewhere warmer. My brain is floating in a sensory deprivation tank, and the tank is filled with cold monotony and freeze-dried shepherd's pie. Welcome to the time warp of Antarctica. Out here, you lose track of days the way socks vanish in a dryer, slowly, sneakily, and then all at once. The sun hasn't risen or set in weeks. It just circles the horizon like it's pacing. Sometimes it peaks above the snowbanks and bathes the landscape in a soft, gold haze. Other times, it dips just below the edge, casting a blue glow that could be morning, or afternoon, or 3:17 a.m. We keep official station time synced to a European time zone because the base is run by a French-Italian team. But that's just for scheduling meals and science reports. My body, it has zero loyalty. I nap at 11 a.m., drink coffee at midnight, and lie in bed, wide-eyed at 4 in the morning, wondering if I've become an ice ghost. Today, I woke up convinced it was Tuesday. It is not Tuesday. Zoe told me it's Friday. Marco thinks it's Saturday. The wall calendar says month 7, which is unhelpful at best. And Jay crossed out all the weekdays and just wrote WHY on every square. Fair. This place warps your sense of time by robbing you of every natural cue. No sunrise, no sunset, no moonlight filtering through trees, no change in temperature, no new smells, no shift in background noise, just endless white, constant hums from heaters and generators, and the occasional dramatic slam of a door catching the wind. Fun historical side note: during Ernest Shackleton's 1915 Antarctic expedition, when the crew of the Endurance was trapped in ice for months, they coped with the timelessness by staging plays and pretending to have fancy dinner parties. They literally wore costumes made from spare fabric and did dramatic readings by candlelight, because when time stops making sense, you either embrace theater. Or madness. I sit in the galley staring into a mug of what may have once been hot chocolate. It's lukewarm now, tastes like regret and chalk. Zoe plops down across from me, chewing a granola bar like it offended her. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she says. "I think I'm becoming one," I reply. She nods. "I had a dream that we were at a beach party in Iceland. There were fireworks, and someone was roasting penguins. Were they marshmallow penguins? No, just really aggressive ones. Seems normal." We sit in silence. Neither of us knows if we just woke up or if we're about to go to sleep. The clock says 14:43, but the light outside suggests perpetual limbo in the hallway. Someone walks by in a bathrobe and winter boots, brushing their teeth. I don't ask. Time is fake, so are routines. You just do what your body tells. You eat when hungry, sleep when tired, scream into the pillow when the ceiling starts whispering in Morse code. I find myself craving the weirdest things. Not food or warmth. Noise, like a distant car alarm. The whir of a fan at a cafe. Someone yelling sorry from a skateboard. I'd kill to hear a dog bark. Not because I want danger, just because it's real, familiar, alive. There's an old radio in the corner of the galley. Doesn't work. Obviously shortwave died the day we stopped pretending we could fix it. But sometimes I turn it on anyway, just to hear the crackle. White noise is better than no noise. Oh, quirky fact of the day: there's a psychological phenomenon called polar T3 syndrome. It affects people who spend long periods in isolated, cold environments like Antarctica. Symptoms: forgetfulness, difficulty concentrating, mood changes. It's believed to be linked to lower levels of triiodothyron T3, a thyroid hormone, affected by extreme cold. Translation: the cold might literally be making us slow and weird. Time is melting. I say to Zoe, "You're melting," she replies, "True." Later, I find Marco in the lab, sorting through glacier movement data, like it means something in this dimension. He's tapping away at his keyboard like it owes him money. "Hey," I say, "what day is it?" He doesn't look up. "Thursday," Zoe said. "Friday," he stops, blinks, then sighs. I give up. I join him anyway. We scroll through satellite images, comparing crevasse growth over the past few months. It's oddly soothing. Straight lines, numbers, a timeline you can trust, a pattern you can follow. In a world with no clocks. Data is religion. At some point, don't ask when someone rings the station's dinner bell, a literal bell. Old school, mounted above the galley door. We use it for meals, emergencies, and occasionally to summon people for snowball duels. It's a strange comfort, that clang, a reminder that something is happening, a shared moment. Dinner is pasta. Again, we all pretend not to care. Gris, the paleontologist, is reading aloud from a book of Antarctic explorer, quotes, "If you're not hungry, cold and tired," he reads, "you're not doing it right." I raise my glass of recycled water. Cheers. The conversation drifts, half-hearted and dreamlike. Someone asks if time zones even exist in a place where the sun doesn't move. Someone else wonders if penguins get confused too. Jay argues that we should just run the station on Mars time and see if anyone notices. And honestly, we probably wouldn't. As we finish dinner, I glance at the wall clock. 1912. Sure, why not? I wandered to my bunk afterward, crawled under my 3 blankets, and pulled the curtain closed. It's dim, warmish, quiet, too quiet. I grab my earbuds and start a playlist of ocean waves and gulls. It's a lie, but a comforting one. And as I drift into the kind of sleep that doesn't feel real, neither deep nor shallow, just pause, die, wonder if I'll wake up tomorrow, or in 5 minutes, or if I'm still asleep right now in Antarctica. Time isn't linear, it's just another whiteout. Whiteouts don't announce themselves with fanfare. They don't kick in the door like a blizzard or growl like a katabatic wind. No, whiteouts sneak up behind you, gently place their hands over your eyes, and whisper, "Guess again." It started during a casual walk. I was heading from the comms module to the storage shack. Not a long walk, maybe 100 meters tops. I had gloves, goggles, radio, backup hand warmers. I even zipped my parka all the way to the top, proud of myself. And then, the world disappeared. No dramatic blizzard, no snow tornado, just a slow, creeping blankness. I turned my head and couldn't see the station. I turned again and couldn't see the flags marking the path I had just followed. The snow under my feet was gone, replaced by an endless, seamless blanket of white in every direction. Sky and ground, gone. No contrast, no depth, just nothing. It felt like falling into a bowl of milk. Cold, dry, echoing milk. Panic bubbled up, just a little, not full scream yet, more like a polite internal freakout. I whispered, "This is not ideal." I reached for my radio. "Oh, anyone got eyes on me?" Static. "Hello, this is Coyote. I'm between comms and storage. Can't see." Squat. Over more static. The wind wasn't screaming. There was no sense of urgency from nature, and that made it worse. It felt like I'd been erased quietly now. For those of you lucky enough to never experience a whiteout, let me explain. It's not about snow falling. It's about light bouncing off snow, off clouds, off fog, creating a perfectly diffused, disorienting lightscape where everything looks the same. You could be 2 feet from shelter and never know it. Historical aside, in 1957, a British scientist at Halley Bay Base got caught in a whiteout just steps from the door. They found him hours later, curled in a snowdrift, disoriented but alive. After that, most stations started installing guide ropes between buildings. Guess what I wasn't holding? Yeah, I took a cautious step forward. My boot crunched softly, but I couldn't see the print I'd just made. It vanished instantly, consumed by the ambient glow. Okay, I told myself. Don't move, don't guess, think. I dropped to 1 Niloa, center of gravity, and tried to orient by memory. I'd walked out past the weather mast, turned left by the drift pile, which meant the storage shack should have been there, or maybe there. Nope. My fingers started to tingle inside my gloves. Whether it was cold or nerves, I couldn't tell. I tried the radio again. "Station, this is Coyote. I'm caught in a whiteout. I repeat, I can't see the path." request assistance, a crackle. Then finally a voice. Kayet, we read you. Can you give a rough location? I think I'm about halfway to storage. Maybe 20 meters past the mast. Maybe. There was a pause. Then Jay's calm voice. Stay put. We'll guide you in. Those words felt like a blanket. I dropped to my knees and waited, eyes straining to find shapes in the nothing. But still nothing. My breath fogged my goggles. I wiped them, but it made no difference. There was nothing to see. Then I heard it, a faint jingle. I turned toward the sound. Out of the mist, a blurry figure appeared, holding the rescue rope and jingling a carabiner against their belt. It was Zoe. She didn't say anything, just reached out slowly, carefully, and tapped my arm. I stood, grabbed the rope, and held on like it was made of gold. We walked back together, silent but steady, one foot after the other. As we approached the station, shapes emerged from the haze. First the dark outline of the airlock, then the red flags, then the edge of the storage crate I'd missed by maybe 4 feet. 4 feet. Inside, the warmth felt like a hug from a sunbeam. I peeled off my gear in slow, grateful motions. My hands were shaking now, but I didn't care. Zoe set the rope down and looked at me. You okay? Yeah, I said. Just forgot what reality looked like for a second. She nodded. That's Antarctica for you. Fun fact, even experienced explorers can lose all sense of direction in a whiteout. In 2008, a veteran field scientist had to be rescued just 10 meters from their vehicle. GPS can fail. Visibility drops to 0, and your brain without visual cues starts inventing directions. You can end up walking in circles without realizing it. Which brings us to the open academic debate of the day. What's the best way to train for whiteout disorientation? Some researchers advocate for virtual reality simulations. Others say nothing beats real experience, low visibility drills with rope lines and blackout goggles. But here's the kicker. Even trained professionals are vulnerable. No method is perfect. Only vigilance and teamwork keep you alive. Later that evening, I scribbled notes in my journal, caught in whiteout, scary but strangely calm, like being inside a marshmallow of doom. Zoe found me. Never leaving rope behind again, ever. Consider installing GPS chip in forehead. Is that covered by science budget? Then I added a little doodle of me in a blank white square with the caption, Where am I? Antarctica. Dinner that night was unusually quiet. Everyone had heard the radio chatter. Chris passed me the mashed potatoes without a word. Jay handed me a cup of cocoa like a peace offering from the void. No jokes, no teasing, just shared understanding. Out here, getting lost is never funny. It's just very, very real. And tomorrow, if I'm lucky, I'll remember the way to the storage shack. The rope line looks like a toy at first, thin, simple, just a piece of nylon stretched between 2 buildings. But today, it's my lifeline. Literally, after yesterday's whiteout misadventure, the team decided it was time to redo the rescue. Rope ritual station tradition/training, meant to remind us all how easily the world outside can flip from cool Instagram photo to lost forever in a freezer. We gather in the mudroom dressed in various states of cold prep. Zoe is wrapping her scarf like she's preparing for battle. Chris is already suited up, looking like an Antarctic ninja. I'm halfway through my second pair of gloves, trying to find the sweet spot where I can still feel my fingers but not lose skin to frostbite. Jay tosses me a carabiner. Your team too, you'll be tail. Why do I always get tail? I ask. Because you panic the least, he replies, deadpan. I can't tell if it's a compliment or a warning. We go over the protocol. Attached to the rope line with a harness clip. Stay in contact with the rope at all times. Follow the lead. No sprinting, no shouting, no wandering. If visibility drops below 1 meter, hold. Reassess. Radio. Then we head outside. The wind is light today. The kind that just stings a little, instead of peeling your skin off. The sun is still stuck in its lazy twilight loop, casting a weird orange glow that's both comforting and deeply unsettling. It's like being stuck in a sunrise that never finishes happening. We start moving, hand over hand along the rope, from the main station to the weather mast, about 150 meters away. It's a practice run, but we're treating it like the real thing. There's no talking. Just the occasional grunt when a boot slips or someone steps too deep into a drift. Halfway to the mast, Jay triggers the fog machine. Yes, you read that right. We simulate a whiteout using an industrial-grade fog generator and a fabric screen held by two of our more theatrical crew members. It's ridiculous, it's genius, it's also cold. Instantly, the world vanishes again. Everything turns to grey and white static. I can barely see Zoe's elbow in front of me. The rope in my hand might as well be my heartbeat. We stop. Protocol. Wait. Breathe. Even though it's fake, I feel my chest tighten. The same disorientation from yesterday bubbles up. My brain screams, "You've lost the station again." But my fingers stay wrapped around the rope. I remind myself, this is training. You're safe. You're tethered. This time you know what to do. The fog clears after a minute. We finish the route. No one got lost. No one cried. Success. Back inside, the station smells like victory and instant noodles. I hate that fog machine, Zoe mutters, pulling off her outer shell. I think it hates us back, I reply, shaking snow from my hood. We debrief over mugs of lukewarm tea. Everyone's quiet but focused. The drill worked. Our heads are clearer, our bodies colder, our respect for the rope absolute. Now for your historical anchor. The buddy system and rope lines became standard after multiple tragic deaths in early Antarctic expeditions. One of the most infamous was the 1912 Terra Nova expedition, where Captain Oates famously walked into a blizzard to avoid slowing his team down, saying, "I am just going outside and maybe some time." He never returned. Since then, Antarctic survival has relied not on bravery, but preparation. We don't go anywhere alone now, not without a plan, not without a rope. Zoe's already rechecking our gear for tomorrow's real mission, a sled run to the ice-bore station. The whiteout drill wasn't for show. The forecast says increasing cloud cover, potential wind gusts, and zero shadows. I wander into the hall and pass by the rope rack. There's something weirdly sacred about it now. Each coil carefully looped, each carabiner checked. Bright orange, tags marked with initials and dates. We name our ropes, not officially, just between us. Mine is Wanda. No reason, it just feels like a wonder. I brush my glove over her loops like a blessing. Quirky fact, on the International Space Station, astronauts use safety tethers that serve the same purpose as our ropes, only, instead of protecting against snow, they prevent floating away into the void. One small mistake up there, and you drift forever. Sound familiar? Later that night, we reviewed the drone footage from yesterday. The aerial view of the pressure ridges and crevasses still makes me uneasy. There's something about seeing our little station from above, so small, so fragile, like a plastic toy dropped on a white bedsheet. We spot a new crack forming about 300 meters from the south observation post. Jay marks it on the map. We all nod like we know what it means, but deep down we're all thinking the same thing. Antarctica is moving, slowly, quietly, but always moving. The ice shifts. The snow covers tracks, time disappears, and the only thing between you and a frozen forever is a nylon rope and the people holding the other end. That night, I lie in my bunk, still wearing my thermal socks because I'm not an idiot. I stare at the ceiling and let my thoughts wander. Would I have survived here 100 years ago? Probably not. But then again, neither would half the explorers who tried. It's not about being tougher, it's about being smarter, and maybe a little lucky. I fall asleep thinking of rope lines stretching across the white void, of hands grasping for safety in the storm, of names like Wanda quietly saving lives in silence. Out here, being tethered isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Dinner tonight is mac and cheese from a pouch. That's not a joke. It's literally printed on the label. Macaroni and cheese style pasta product, rehydratable. The words style and product don't exactly inspire culinary confidence. But out here, you lower your expectations and raise your gratitude. The galley smells like melted plastic. Warm salt, an old sock switch, believe it or not, is a good thing. Anything that isn't raw, cold, or metallic air counts as inviting in Antarctica. I tear open the pouch and pour in a carefully measured amount of boiling water, seal it, and shake it gently like I'm holding a newborn that happens to be full of powdered cheese. Then I wait. The 3 longest minutes of the day. Across from me, Jay is stirring something that might be chili, or stew, or science gone wrong. I added Tabasco, he says. Makes it 12% less depressing. You measured that? Emotionally, yes. I laugh, then peel open my pouch. Steam rises, and for a moment, I'm transported. Not to a 5-star restaurant, obviously, but maybe a cozy middle school lunchroom on a good day. The cheese is vaguely orange. The noodles are soft enough. I shovel in a spoonful and instantly feel better about everything. Mac and cheese is the great equalizer. Zoe joins us with a bowl of soup and a slice of toast that looks like it lost a fight. Toast is not supposed to bend, she says, inspecting it like it might reveal a secret. You're expecting too much from the bread, I reply. It peaked at the freezer stage. Meals here are more than just refueling. They're emotional checkpoints. Everyone decompresses, stories are shared. Weird dreams are analyzed. Jokes are told with reckless enthusiasm. It's one of the few parts of the day that feels normal human. We sit around the table, legs stretched out, boots clunking against each other. Someone starts playing lo-fi music from a speaker propped up with duct tape. For a moment, the station becomes a tiny coffee house with really bad acoustics and great company. Chris, ever the enthusiast, starts telling us about the oldest preserved noodles ever found in China, 4,000 years ago, made from millet flour. They were found in an overturned bowl buried under silt. He says it with the reverence of someone describing ancient treasure. Jay raises his pouch in salute. 2 noodles. May ours be equally eternal. We all raise our rehydrated bags. The clink of spoons is the toast. Historical interlude. Meals have always been a morale booster in polar expeditions. Shackleton famously insisted on sharing hot meals every night, even when his crew was stranded on the ice for months. He believed that eating together kept spirits up, and science agrees. Communal meals improve mental health in isolation. Also, hot food just feels like a victory when the outside world is trying to kill you. The mac and cheese starts to cool, turning from comfort to questionable. But I eat every last bite, because out here, calories are life. You can burn upwards of 6,000 a day in this cold just existing. Everything is harder. Walking, thinking, staying warm, digesting. Your body's in a constant negotiation with nature. Jay licks his spoon clean and sets it down. Remember the first week, he says, when we still had fresh eggs and bread that didn't taste like cardboard. We all groan. Don't remind me, Zoe says. I had dreams about oranges. Like vivid dreams. Fresh produce is a myth, I reply. A folktale passed down from warmer generations. It's true. Our supply runs are rare, and perishables go fast. What's left is mostly canned, freeze-dried or powdered. Fruit becomes a luxury, not a given. The occasional apple is treated like gold. The one time someone got a banana in a resupply pack, it was shared like communion. 1 bite each. Reverent silence. Open academic debate of the day. There's increasing interest in how long-term isolation in places like Antarctica affects food preferences and taste perception. Some studies suggest your taste buds dull over time in extreme environments. Others argue it's not physiology, it's just boredom. Either way, even bad meals become nostalgic. I once caught someone describing a stale granola bar as decadent. Zoe takes the last sip of her soup and sighs. You ever think about tacos? Every night, I say. Sometimes in inappropriate detail. We all laugh, but it's the kind of laugh that comes from shared hunger, not for food, but for variety, for texture, for a meal where you didn't have to rip open a pouch or boil water like a medieval alchemist. Still, we make the most of it. Someone passes around a bag of freeze-dried strawberries, which crunch like chalk but taste like hope. Marco brings out his stash of instant espresso, and we do shots from tiny thermal mugs like we're at a caffeine. SPEAKEASY. The night winds down with someone reciting lines from memory. Shakespeare, bad poetry, song lyrics. I contribute with a dramatic reading of the macaroni pouch instructions, complete with British narrator voice. Add boiling water to the line. To the line, you say, stir with purpose, close and wait. Time will pass, and lo, so shall your hunger. Chris actually slow claps. Eventually, people start drifting off to their bunks. The lights dim, the heater keeps humming. I stay behind, staring at my empty pouch, rehydrated, shelf-stable, convenient, kind of like us. We're living in packets, out here sealed off, rationed, defined by what we bring in and what we leave behind. But we still share, still laugh, still find joy in a spoonful of half-melted cheese dust. As I toss the pouch into the compost bin and stretch my arms with a yawn, I remind myself that tomorrow is another freeze-dried masterpiece waiting to be unwrapped. And maybe, just maybe, someone will break out the emergency chocolate. One can dream. Showering in Antarctica is less of a routine and more of an epic quest. Think Indiana Jones and the last bar of soap. But colder, shorter, and with more existential dread. It's officially my turn on the board. There's a schedule taped to the door of the hygiene module, a glorified broom closet with a curtain, a timer, and the coldest tiled floor on Earth. 2 showers per week, per person, max, and even then, you're expected to keep it under 2 minutes. 2 minutes, that's 120 seconds to undress. Adjust to the temperature, lather, rinse, maybe repeat, but probably not. And get out before your skin regrets ever being born. You can't just walk into this situation. You have to psych yourself up, hydrate, stretch, do light squats. Imagine your post-shower self as a radiant, clean phoenix rising from the frostbitten ashes. I gather my gear towel, shower shoes, toiletries in a Ziploc bag labeled "Do Not Steal." I count my shampoo. I nod solemnly to Zoe as I pass. She just offers a slow thumbs up from the couch. "Godspeed," she says. The shower room itself is compact, no windows, concrete walls, a small drain in the middle of the floor, and a water tank the size of a smart car humming softly in the corner. The air smells like wet plastic, pine-scented body wash, and anxiety. I step in and immediately feel vulnerable. Not because I'm undressed though, yes, that too, but because this entire event is a negotiation with time. The moment I turn the knob, the countdown begins. I take a deep breath. 3, 2, 1, The water sputters on, and for half a second, it's glorious. Warm, not hot, but warm enough to feel like forgiveness. I dive into action like a contestant on a speed washing game show. Soap to face, rinse. Shampoo to scalp, lather, rinse. Scrub behind ears, armpits, knees. Whatever I remember. I get cocky around the 40-second mark and go for conditioner. Mistake. The water pressure drops slightly, a reminder that the tank is not on my side. By the 90-second mark, I'm moving like a caffeinated crab. Water hits my back like liquid time. I fumble for the towel with one hand while rinsing with the other. I nearly drop my soap bar. It does a sad little dance across the floor before I catch it with my foot like an NHL goalie. And then, the alarm buzzes. Yes, there's an alarm. A little beep that reminds you the water is about to cut off, whether you like it or not. I stumble out of the spray just in time. The water stops. Silence returns. I'm standing there, dripping, panting, victorious. 2 minutes. Clean enough. I towel off quickly, then wrap up in layers again. Fresh thermals, dry socks, a new lease on life. The funny thing is, I don't even feel that clean. Not really, but mentally, I'm sparkling. There's something about successfully navigating a timed, rationed, cold-adjacent shower in one of the harshest places on Earth that makes you feel like a god. I exit the hygiene module with the slow swagger of someone who's earned the right to breathe without flinching. Zoe raises her mug in salute. "You made it." "Only dropped the soap once," I reply. Gold medal performance. Historical sidebar. During the early Antarctic expeditions, personal hygiene was not a priority. Bathing could take place once every few months. Sailors and explorers often developed severe skin issues or frostbite from attempting to wash. Instead, they relied on dry scrubbing using cloths or brushes to remove surface grime and liberal applications of talcum powder. Modern Antarctic hygiene, while still limited, benefits from closed water systems and heat recovery units. Every drop used in the station is accounted for, filtered, recycled, and monitored. You don't waste water out here, ever. Which brings us to today's quirky fact. NASA studies water recycling techniques at Antarctic research stations to improve systems for space travel. The same greywater systems used in orbit are field tested here. So yes, in a roundabout way, I just simulated a Martian shower. Later, I sit down in the galley with a cup of herbal tea, basking in the glory of my minor cleanliness. My crewmates slowly trickle in, noses pink from the cold, eyes glassy from screen fatigue. Chris flops down next to me and sniffs the air. "You smell ... not awful." "I know," I say proudly. "I even used soap. Real soap, or that weird seaweed bar, coconut mint. Fancy." We sip our drinks and watch the heater cycle kick on. It whirs like a tired dog dreaming about squirrels. Open academic debate time. Some scientists argue that ultra-hygienic conditions in remote environments, like research stations or spacecraft, may actually weaken immune response over time. Others say the real risk is the exact opposite: bacterial buildup from limited sanitation. The truth, still up for discussion. But in the meantime, we'll all just try to shower fast and pray our towel doesn't touch the floor. Marco walks in, his hair still damp. "You smell like a soap commercial," he says. "Thank you," I reply. "It's my greatest achievement." Today, as the night winds down, we share stories of the worst showers we've ever taken. Zoe tells one about a waterfall in Iceland that turned out to be glacier runoff. Jay once showered during a sandstorm in Morocco. I mention a hostel in Chile with water so sulfurous I smelled like rotten eggs for 2 days. But this shower, this 2-minute Antarctic feat, it somehow feels like the most earned. Before bed, I update my journal. Shower log: mission success, no injuries, 1 minor soap loss, clean rating, 7/10, emotional boost, 10/10. Then I draw a stick figure with shampoo on its head doing a victory dance. I slide into bed, cleanish and calm. The station creaks gently in the wind. Somewhere, water filters hum in the walls, recycling the remnants of my triumph. And as I close my eyes, I swear I hear the whisper of coconut mint in the air. I lie in bed, clean for the first time in what feels like a month, and I can't sleep. Not because of discomfort, not because of noise. It's something strange, something uniquely Antarctic. It's too bright. See, night doesn't exist here. Right now, not really. The sun never fully sets during the polar summer, and even in the so-called winter. You often get this weird bluish twilight that hovers indefinitely. It's like being stuck inside a fridge with a flickering fluorescent bulb that refuses to die. My bunk is cozy enough. 3 fleece blankets, a curtain pulled shut, my trusty pillow that I'd fight a seal for. But no matter how much I adjust, there's always a faint, stubborn glow leaking in. It doesn't help that the station hums constantly. Not loud, just enough to let you know it's alive. Heaters, cycling, pumps, clicking, the occasional clunk from the water pipes, all of it conspiring to create a background noise symphony entitled Sleep. Never heard of her. I check my watch. 02:14. Could be AM, could be PM, could be a social experiment. I roll over and sigh. This is when your brain gets weird. When you've been here long enough, and the rhythm of day and night disappears, your mind starts to slip sideways. Time becomes elastic. Sleep becomes optional. Dreams and memories bleed into each other like watercolors on damp paper. I think of home, not with longing, exactly, just curiosity. What time is it there? Is someone having pancakes right now? Are streetlights on? Are dogs barking at squirrels? There are no squirrels in Antarctica, no bugs, no birds, no crickets to chirp you into a sense of evening, just silence, snow, and the sun pretending it's dusk all the time. I throw the covers off and slide out of bed. Might as well stretch my legs. The hallway is dim, bathed in red safety lights, so no one gets blinded on their midnight bathroom run. The floor creaks under my socks. The station smells like instant soup and thermal plastic. I pass Jay in the galley, half asleep, sipping something from a mug and staring into the void. "Can't sleep?" he asks. "Nope." "You?" "Same." We don't say anything else for a while. Just sit, sipping, breathing, listening to the quiet hum of mechanical life. Eventually, he mutters, "You ever get that thing where you don't know if you're dreaming? All the time. Like, what if this is a dream? Or we fell asleep 2 weeks ago, and this is a loop." I blink. That would explain a lot. Zoe walks in a few minutes later, hair messy, eyes barely open. She waves lazily, sits down, and lays her head on the table. "Too bright?" I ask. She groans in reply. None of us are quite awake. None of us are quite asleep. We exist in this soft limbo, drifting inside a half-lit snow globe, waiting for the next real moment to arrive. Open academic debate of the day. Scientists are still studying how constant daylight or darkness affects human cognition and sleep patterns. Some say melatonin production gets suppressed. Others claim the psychological effects are worse than the physiological ones. There's even talk of specialized lighting systems that mimic circadian rhythms to trick the brain into behaving normally. We don't have those here. Just blackout curtains, a few eye masks, and denial. At some point, I wander outside. Not far, just the airlock. Then, a few steps beyond, the The sky is a deep blue gray, no stars, just clouds glowing faintly, like the inside of a soft-lit lantern. The station behind me feels small. The cold presses in on every side, but gently tonight. No wind, no fury, just stillness. Fun fact, the Antarctic sky has been used for astronomical observations because of its clarity and stability. Some telescopes here can see stars and cosmic microwave background radiation better than almost anywhere else on Earth, which is ironic, because from here, the stars rarely show up. I sit on a crate, wrap my arms around myself, and breathe, even out here, with my breath fogging the air and my fingers slowly freezing. There's a kind of peace I can't explain. It's not comfort, exactly, more like acceptance. The world has shrunk down to this frozen slice of nothing, and within it, you find focus. Eventually, I go back inside, crawl under the covers again. This time, I leave the curtain cracked just a little. Let the light filter in. It's not going anywhere anyway. I close my eyes, somewhere between sleep and waking. I dream I'm floating above the station, watching it glow from within like a little ember in a sea of white. I dream of fireflies and streetlights, of night skies full of stars, of warm air on my face and grass between my toes. But then I look down, and the snow is still there. The hum of the heater is still in my ears. The sun still refuses to leave, and I'm okay with that because in this strange, endless day, there's still space for dreams, even if they never go fully dark. Sleep comes eventually, but it's not restful. It's the kind of sleep that clings to you like static light, restless, haunted by fragments of half-dreams. I wake up unsure of where I am, then I remember the light, the cold, the endless twilight. Sit up in my bunk and rub my eyes. My hands feel stiff, my joints slow to respond. I don't even check the clock. Time has become such a vague concept here that it almost feels rude to ask. Eventually, I shuffle into the hallway. It's quiet. The usual background hum of life in the station feels distant, muffled. The galley is empty. Lights are low. Even the heater isn't doing its usual rattling wheeze. The atmosphere is off. Something about the way the light filters through the station windows makes everything feel colder, dimmer, like someone turned the saturation down on reality. I grab a mug and pour some hot water from the dispenser. No tea, just the warmth. I sip it slowly and lean against the counter. That's when I hear it, a distant creak, then a low guttural moan. It's not the heater, it's not the pipes, it's the ice. People don't talk enough about how much noise ice can make. It isn't always quiet. Sometimes it shifts and groans, especially at night if you can call anything night around here. The pressure builds up in the massive sheets below us, and suddenly there's this unearthly sound, like a whale song from the bones of the earth itself. I set the mug down. That's when the dreams come flooding back. Vivid flashes of heat and sand, of fire and cities under bright suns, of tacos. Again, my subconscious is a hungry beast, but more than that sounds noise, music, a bustling world in the dream. I was walking barefoot on hot pavement. It hurt, but in a good way. The sting of sun-warmed ground was a reminder that the world was alive, that it moved, breathed, baked in the sun. Here, everything is still, even your thoughts. I decide to take a walk to clear my head. The halls are empty. I pass the dorm bunks, the research room, the comms module, no sign of anyone. Not even the usual scribbles on the whiteboard or half-finished crossword puzzle. I pause near the emergency airlock and press my face to the small window. It's white outside, still infinite. I step into the gear room and suit up me. Now, like muscle memory is doing the thinking for me. Layers go on. Base, fleece, parka, gloves, balaclava. I don't think, I just dress. Outside, the air bites hard. There's a slight breeze, enough to lift the snow into faint whirls that sparkle. In the static light, I walk. No destination in mind, no goal, just walking. I'm not sure how far I get before the sound starts again. Crack, moan, pop. But it echoes beneath my boots. The ice moving, alive. I stop, listen. The sound rises in slow crests, then fades again. It's eerie, not human, but not entirely natural either. It feels like something old, something watching. I sit down on a drift, legs buried in the snow, and tilt my face up. I close my eyes, and that's when I hear footsteps, soft, crunching, behind me. I don't turn round at first. I wait. The crunching stops. I open my eyes and glance over my shoulder. No one. Just wind. But that's how Antarctica plays with your head. It wants you to listen too hard, to think you heard something, saw something. That's the thing about silence, it breeds ghosts. Fun historical side note, there's a theory fringe, but oddly compelling, that isolation and magnetic anomalies in polar regions might cause audio hallucinations, that your brain starts inventing stimuli when there's nothing left to process. Explorers in the early 20th century wrote of shadowy figures, phantom voices, even entire conversations with people who weren't there. Shackleton himself described a mysterious presence during his trek across South Georgia Island. He believed someone or something was walking beside them, an extra figure, silent, watchful, a third man. It's got a name now, the third man factor, a well-documented phenomenon of extreme environments, people under duress, isolation, or stress reporting a benevolent presence, a guide, a companion. Sometimes I think I've felt it too. Maybe we all do out here. I head back slowly, boots dragging, eyes scanning the snow for my own princess. Still there, a grounding comfort. The station looms again in the distance, like a shipwreck preserved in ice. Inside, the air feels warmer, alive again. The lights are back to normal. Someone's even left a cup of tea on the table, steam curling lazily upward. Zoe walks in, rubbing her eyes. "Did you go out?" she asks. I nod. "Needed air." She sits beside me and takes the other cup. We don't say much, just sip and stare at the wall where someone's taped up a drawing of a penguin in a cowboy hat. No explanation, none needed. Quirky fact of the day: some researchers have reported dreaming more vividly in Antarctica than anywhere else. High altitudes, irregular sleep, and melatonin fluctuations seem to stir up intense, memorable dreams. Some swear they dream of old memories, others of entire lifetimes they've never lived. "Had a dream last night," Zoe says suddenly. "Yeah, I was in the desert, walking barefoot. It was hot. I could feel the sand burning under my feet." I look at her. I had the same one. We don't speak for a moment. Then Jay walks in, yawning. "Anyone else dream of tacos and fire, or just me?" I burst out laughing, because somehow Antarctica finds a way to bind us, not just through cold or routine, but through something stranger, something deeper. As I crawl back into bed later, still not sleepy, still hovering in that liminal headspace, I wonder if the dreams will return, if the ice beneath us ever dreams, too, if it remembers the sun. You wouldn't think the coldest, most isolated place on Earth would have ghost stories, and yet, here we are. It started with a busted light bulb. Chris was the first to mention it. "The lab's overhead light flickers every time I open the sample freezer," he said at breakfast, stabbing his pancakes like they owed him money. "Swear it only happens when I'm alone in there." We all shrugged. Power surges, old wiring. The station's not exactly state-of-the-art. But then Zoe added, "My bunk curtain moved last night, like someone brushed past it. I thought it was you," she said, pointing at me. Me, I was too busy dreaming about barbecued penguins. I said. That got a few laughs. But then the joke stopped when Jay mentioned the screaming tent. Yes, that's what it's called. Capital letters included. Apparently, long before any of us got here, back in the early 2000s, a temporary research tent, set up during the winter months, started making strange sounds. Not just creaking from the wind, but actual screaming, human-like, repeated. No one ever found a cause. It was taken down mid-season. Legend says it was built over a pressure fissure. Jay said, dramatically holding his spoon like a microphone. But some say it was just haunted. There are dozens of stories like that, floating around the Antarctic circuit. Tales passed down by researchers, station crews, over freeze-dried dinners and rationed vodka. They always start as jokes that then they sink in. There's something about this place that invites Smith. Maybe it's the endless silence. The way the ice creaks and groans without warning. The way shadows stretch too far in twilight that never ends. I didn't believe any of it until last night. Let me explain. I was on night rotation, monitoring comms while the rest of the station slept. A boring task, mostly listening to static, checking status updates, and pretending to look productive while doodling penguin ninjas in my notebook. Then, around 3 o'clock station time, I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, in the hallway just outside. I looked up, expecting Zoe or Jay. No one. I waited. Nothing. I stood, walked to the door, peeked down the hall. Empty. I walked the length of the corridor, boots silent on the padded floor. Still nothing. I checked the bunk rooms. Everyone accounted for. Back at my post, I tried to shake it off. Maybe a trick of the acoustics. Maybe someone had walked by and I'd just missed them. Then I noticed something. My doodle page was gone. Not torn out, not folded, just vanished. I stared at my notebook. My pen still rested where I left it, the page underneath blank. Now, I'm not saying ghosts are real. I'm just saying if they were, Antarctica would be prime real estate. Fun historical freeze frame. In 1911, during the Terra Nova expedition, a scientist named Opsley Cherry Garrett reported hallucinations after prolonged exposure to cold and stress. He described hearing voices, seeing things out of the corner of his eye, and famously laughing hysterically at nothing for hours. This, by the way, was before he ate penguin eggs raw on a dare. True story. So yeah, maybe our brains are just not built for this kind of solitude. Later that morning, Chris swore he heard a woman humming in the supply room. He was alone. Maybe the station's haunted by someone who really misses fresh vegetables, I said. Or, Zoe offered, it's the ghost of a past researcher who forgot their shower towel. Either way, the jokes kept coming, but then things escalated. One of the lab's climate sensors started sending strange readings, reversed temperatures, impossible barometric pressure spikes. Jay reinstalled the firmware. Nothing changed, we joked. That it had a haunted resistor. Marco actually put a sticky note on it. Haunted, do not recalibrate without salt. But by that night, everyone was just a little jumpy. Lights flickered more often. Curtains swayed in still air. The heater made a sound that was definitely not normal. And then the radio chirped. Not a voice, not a transmission, just a single chirp. Like someone pressed the button for half a second and let go. We froze. Everyone was in the room. No one had touched a radio. I picked up mine. Station 2, Field Team, do you copy? Static. We waited. Eventually, Jay muttered. Okay, I've had my quota of weird for the week. I'm sleeping with earplugs. We laughed again, but this time, it didn't land as hard. Here's your quirky fact of the day. The South Pole Station is said to have a ghost named the Beaker. No one knows who started the story, but supposedly, he's the ghost of a chemist who died during an early expedition. He wanders the science modules, moving lab equipment and leaving perfectly drawn smiley faces in frost-covered windows. So of course, this morning, I found a smiley face on the window near the airlock, drawn inside the frost. I didn't tell anyone. I just stared at it for a full minute, then wiped it away, because sometimes it's better not to know, or maybe the station is playing tricks on us. Not haunted in the classic floating candlesticks and Victorian children's sense, but haunted by itself, by isolation, by repetition, by the pressure of being stuck in an environment so quiet your own thoughts start echoing. I crawl into my bunk tonight and close the curtain tight. I leave my radio off, and I whisper, "Good night, Beaker. Don't mess with my notebook again." The snow hasn't stopped falling, not in any aggressive blizzardy way, just soft, persistent, and endless. The kind of snow that blurs the horizon into a blank canvas and makes you forget where the sky ends and the ground begins. It's like Antarctica has decided not to let go of me just yet, as if it wants to imprint this final moment into my bones. Today is my last full day here. It snuck up on me, like most things do in a place without time. I woke up this morning to Zoe casually mentioning, "You fly out tomorrow, right?" I blinked. Jay checked the board. "Yep, resupply flight. You're on the manifest." Suddenly, it hit me. This is it. My last powdered breakfast, my last frozen breath, my last walk across a windblown tundra of scientific equipment and drifting snow. I didn't expect to feel ... sad. I thought I'd be counting down the minutes, dreaming of hot showers that don't come with alarms, real tacos, and sleeping past dawn without fluorescent lights trying to gaslight me into productivity. But instead, I feel ... heavier, not in the Parker hand boots kind of way, in the leaving something behind kind of way. I spend the morning walking through the station, saying quiet goodbyes to strange places, the lab with the haunted thermometer, the gear room that always smells like wet duct tape, the corner in the galley where the sun hits the metal shelf just right for 7 minutes every day. I pass the rope rack and give Wanda my named tether a grateful pat. She got me through a whiteout that means something. That means everything. Lunch is pasta again. It tastes better today. Or maybe I'm just more willing to let it be good. Chris tells one last story about a prehistoric amphibian found frozen in a fossil that had teeth on its eyelids. Why would nature invent that? Zoe gifts me her last hot cocoa packet like it's a sacred relic. Jay draws me a cartoon penguin riding a snowmobile on a post-it and signs it to the least likely to freeze to death, but only barely. I stuff it into my journal between pages of scribbled frost, bad poetry, and one highly detailed diagram titled How Not to Pee in a Whiteout. The rest of the afternoon is a blur of packing. My duffel bag fights me, and I fight back. It's too full, it smells like campfire and feet. It's perfect. Then comes the ritual. Everyone gathers near the airlock. They pass me the golden muff, a heavily duct-taped, fleece-lined hand muff that's been ceremonially given to every departing crew member since 2015. It's ugly. It's glorious. It has Sharpie messages written all over it like a yearbook, signed by weird, cold-loving nerds. Zoe writes on it, "You still smell like mint shampoo." I'm not mad. I add my line, "Next time, let's find a dessert." We all walk outside together, even though it's cold enough to make your teeth reconsider their loyalty. The air is sharp and still. No wind, no sound. Just the low hum of the station behind us and the gentle crunch of snow under boots. We climb a small drift and look out over the nothing. It's beautiful, not in a postcard way, in a bone-deep, raw, humbling way, the kind of beauty that reminds you that Earth, still, has corners we don't fully understand, places that will always belong more to silence than to us, and that we're lucky, privileged, to witness them. Fun historical closing note. In 1958, the first successful overland crossing of Antarctica was completed by the Commonwealth Expedition. It took 99 days and over 2,000 miles of hauling sledges and braving storms. Their goal wasn't just survival, it was understanding, mapping, connecting. I think about that a lot. That for all our talk of conquering nature, the real power is in respecting it, in realizing how small we are against the sky. As the evening comes, I sit in the comms room one last time. I check the logs. I flip the switches. I run my fingers along the knobs I've memorized by feel. Zoe sits beside me. We don't talk much. There's nothing left to say. Eventually, she nudges me. "You ready?" Not even slightly. We laugh, and then it's time for sleep. Or whatever passes for it here. I crawl into my bunk, wrap myself in 3 layers of warmth, and pull the curtain shut. But I don't close my eyes just yet. I listen to the hum to the ice to the memory of wind to the silence that still whispers in the walls, and I smile. Because even though I'm leaving, part of me will always be frozen, here tucked inside a snowdrift, chasing penguins, talking to ghosts, and dreaming, in endless twilight, and now, it's time to close our eyes. Maybe you're lying in bed, or curled up on the couch, the lights off, the world quiet. As the last echoes of Antarctica fade, let your breathing slow. Let the snow settle in your mind. Imagine that frozen sky, still, circling without ever rising or setting. The station, glowing like a match in a sea of white. The soft crunch of your boots on untouched snow. The ghost of a penguin honking somewhere in the distance, possibly judging you. Let that cold become distant, not harsh, not biting but soft, like a blanket of hush. Let the silence wash over you, not in fear, but in calm. You've survived the wind. You've walked through whiteouts. You've stared down, haunted thermometers, and triumphed over 2-minute showers. And through it all, you've carried something with you, wonder. Because Antarctica, for all its chill and solitude, offers that. A quiet awe, a reminder that the world is bigger, older, and far more mysterious than we often let ourselves believe. Now, take a deep breath. Wiggle your toes. Pull your blanket tighter. Let your thoughts melt away like icicles in morning sun. There's nothing to worry about now. The station is safe. The snow is still. And you are home. Good night, everyone.